Early in the morning, Mary dragged me out of bed to welcome the benefactor who was about to demolish our house. I looked at the 3 red banners in front of me.
The weather is chilly, but Mr. Collins brings joy. Keep an open mind, and Mr. Collins will come. Mr. Collins, you are my hero.
I couldn't help but marvel at my own handiwork. One word, impressive. Surrounded by a 2-meter radius of pink roses and villagers all dressed in red coats, I was forced into Grandma Betty's red coat by Mary as I stepped out.
They're here, they're here.
Mary pointed excitedly at the 2 Bentleys approaching us.
Mom, can you buy me one of these cars?
Sure, with all the money we're getting from the demolition, we can afford one.
Do you even know how much this car costs?
Can it be more than what we're getting from the demolition?
If we bargain hard, we might even have $2,000 left over.
At that moment, I felt 2 cold stares from John and Mary. If it weren't for the inappropriate setting, I might have faced some serious consequences. The 2 Bentleys came to a smooth stop in front of us. The car door opened, revealing a pair of impeccably polished shoes. The person inside stepped out, exuding an air of elegance. Those long legs, broad shoulders, and slim waist reminded me of my ex-boyfriend, Ryan, whom I dated for 18 days. Wait a minute, this handsome guy looks exactly like him.
Can it be more than what we're getting from the demolition?
If we bargain hard, we might even have $2,000 left over.
At that moment, I felt 2 cold stares from John and Mary. If it weren't for the inappropriate setting, I might have faced some serious consequences. The 2 Bentleys came to a smooth stop in front of us. The car door opened, revealing a pair of impeccably polished shoes. The person inside stepped out, exuding an air of elegance. Those long legs, broad shoulders, and slim waist reminded me of my ex-boyfriend, Ryan, whom I dated for 18 days. Wait a minute, this handsome guy looks exactly like him. Who's that stunning beauty in the mirror? Oh, it's me. Confidence plus 10,086. But my confidence wavered when I saw Charlie standing next to the Bentley outside. How could he look so incredibly handsome today? It's almost unfair. I felt a bit out of his league, but I kept my composure. As he opened the car door for me, I gracefully slid into the passenger seat. I repeated to myself 3 times, "Be confident, you are the most beautiful." Turning my head, I caught Charlie staring at me.
Hey, need help with your seatbelt? If I do it, I'll have to get really close.
My toes curled in response. I glanced at him and muttered under my breath.
No wonder you can't win me over. With that approach, who could you possibly win?
Charlie's expression stiffened, and he nervously licked his lips. I was confident he couldn't hear me. I had mastered the art of controlling my volume. Charlie was an excellent driver, and I almost fell asleep in his car. When we arrived at the restaurant, he gallantly pulled out my chair. I displayed all the etiquette I had ever learned. Just as Charlie was about to speak, I held up a hand to pause him.
Can it wait? My mouth is in a hurry right now.
Seeing him nod, I didn't hold back and dug into the meal I had worked so hard for. As I took the last bite from my plate, a beautiful woman sat down next to us and immediately addressed him.
Charlie, my dear.
Narrator, tone, excited just as I was about to enjoy the show, Charlie's words stopped me in my tracks.
Don't call me that. I have a name, and besides, my girlfriend would get upset if you called me that.
Narrator, tone, surprised while I was still processing, Charlie pointed at me and said,
This is my girlfriend, Sophia.
Narrator, tone, angry I shot him a glare. Charlie gestured towards the table and then looked at me with a pitiful expression. Who could resist that?
Yes, I'm his girlfriend.
Narrator, tone, surprised Emily, the pure beauty, was momentarily stunned but quickly switched to a professional smile.
Hello, I'm Lily.
Sophia.
I have something to attend to, so I won't disturb you. With that, Lily got up and left.
Narrator, tone, serious. After Lily left, Charlie, fearing I might misunderstand, spoke with a hint of panic.
Sis, I don't know her. I've only met her once, and it was unintentional. Sis, you have to believe me.
Narrator, tone, serious. Listening to his panicked tone, I scratched my temple with my fingertip.
It's fine. You don't need to explain to me. It has nothing to do with me. I'm helping you purely because of the situation. Absolutely not because of his looks, absolutely not.
Narrator, tone, relieved. Hearing my words, Charlie seemed deflated, muttering a fainto as he awkwardly stood up and said,
I'm going to the restroom.
Narrator, tone, sad. Watching his hurried steps, I felt a twinge of discomfort. Narrator, tone, cheerful. When he returned, he had regained his composure, looking like the cheerful Ryan again. Narrator, tone, surprised. As I sat in the passenger seat, about to fasten my seatbelt, I felt a shadow looming over me. His hand replaced mine, pulling the seatbelt and fastening it for me. Narrator, tone, surprised. At that moment, I realized he had heard my earlier complaint when I got into the car. Narrator, tone, serious. What sharp ears. Narrator, tone, serious. If you have the ability, read my mind. Narrator, tone, cheerful. Charlie glanced at me and gently tucked a stray hair behind my ear. I could hear my heart racing. Narrator, tone, terrified. If you asked me if I dared to move, I would answer, absolutely not. It was too overwhelming. He was playing dirty.
Sis, can I visit your place tomorrow for a relocation survey?
I nodded, then realizing he couldn't see me while driving, I said,
Sure, Mary will be home.
And what about you, sis?
I'm off to save the world tomorrow.
I heard Charlie chuckle lightly.
You mean going to work?
Yeah, if I don't go, my boss will come to my house to drag me out.
All right, I'll visit when you're home then.
You just want to see me, don't you? The car slowly stopped in front of my building. I was about to get out, but Charlie hadn't unlocked the door.
Sis, please don't block me again, okay?
What if I say no?
Then I'll come find you every day and add you with 18 different accounts.
His sulky words made me laugh. I ruffled his soft hair and said,
Don't worry, I won't.
All right, pinky promise.
I hooked my pinky with his as he said childishly,
Pinky promise, no changes for 100 years.
Okay, sis has to go now. Don't miss me too much, I said as I opened the door and got out.
As I walked towards the entrance of my building, I turned back and saw him standing by the car, waving at me with a silly grin. I raised an eyebrow at him, and seeing his reaction, I knew he was totally smitten by me. When I got back to my room, I saw a message from him.
Sis, you're teasing me.
Just my usual tricks.
The next day, I got scolded by my boss for an hour just because I stepped into the office with my left foot first. I was slacking off at my desk when my boss saw me and said,
You're coming with me to the banquet tomorrow night.
But boss, I just started here, I protested, following her into the office.
You've had enough days off at home. You must come, she said, taking off her 8-centimeter high heels and collapsing on the sofa.
Sweetie, can I skip it?
Fine, but tonight you have to accompany the boss to the banquet.
I'll be there on time tomorrow, I said, quickly dashing out of the office like a whirlwind.
Before leaving work, I knocked on my boss's office door and handed her a box of hangover pills.
Take care, beautiful. I'm heading out.
All right, take it easy.
As I got on the subway, my phone kept vibrating with messages.
Sis, are you off work? Can I treat you to dinner?
I have plans tonight.
Seeing that he was typing for 5 minutes without sending anything, I took the initiative to message him.
Mary made dinner for me. If I don't go home, I might be in trouble.
Okay.
After dinner, while lying in bed watching a show, I received another message from Charlie.
Sis, want some strawberries?
Yes.
I'm downstairs.
Seeing the message, I rushed downstairs and saw him standing by his car, waiting for me.
Sis, come here.
He walked around the car to open the door for me. Once inside, he handed me a bunch of stuff.
The strawberries are washed, and here's some candied fruit.
Why did you come over now?
His face turned red.
I just wanted to see you.
He then fed me a strawberry.
Sis, try it. It's really sweet.
I took a bite from his hand and chewed.
It is sweet.
Seeing his face turn even redder, I felt genuinely happy. Who would understand this feeling? I took the remaining half of the strawberry from his hand and popped it into my mouth.
I'll treat you to dinner the day after tomorrow. Are you free?
Yes, I'll come pick you up.
I picked the biggest, reddest strawberry from the bunch and handed it to him.
You eat this one.
Watching him take the strawberry from my hand with a flushed face felt like teasing an innocent guy, but it was so exhilarating. I sat in the passenger seat next to my boss, listening to her advice.
I've heard Mr. Johnson is difficult to deal with and quite inappropriate. Be careful.
With us being so attractive, aren't we walking into the lion's den?
It's not a big problem. He prefers the innocent type, not like us. Besides, his assistant is his wife's spy, so he wouldn't dare to act out.
We arrived as she finished speaking. I took an anti-hangover pill from my bag and handed one to my boss, taking one myself as well.
Nowadays, women dress provocatively just for us to look at. Just the other day, a female college student agreed to spend a night with me for a few $1,000. You can tell she's used to it.
His assistant had been sent away for some reason. Just as he was about to speak again, I downed a shot of alcohol. I slammed the table and pointed at his nose. Who do you think you are, talking about women like that? Look at you, with your bloated face, like a toad that's grown too big for its pond.
What are you, an idiot? How many mothers do you have to talk like that? You're just a walking disgrace.
Your mouth spews nonsense like a broken faucet. I was about to continue when Mr. Johnson stood up, raising his hand as if to strike us. My hand was already in my bag, reaching for the pepper spray, when suddenly, the door opened. It was Charlie. He was breathing heavily as he walked briskly towards me. Seeing that I was fine, he nodded slightly to my boss as a greeting. Then he turned his attention to the man who had been speaking rudely.
Mr. Johnson, you certainly have a commanding presence. It's something our company can only aspire to.
Not at all, not at all.
We didn't listen to the rest of his words. Charlie's hand hovered protectively over my waist. Once we were out of the hall, Charlie looked at my boss.
I'll take you home first.
No need, I drove myself. You can take care of her.
All right.
After seeing my boss off, I turned to look at Charlie. He gazed at me with such concern, his eyes reddening.
Sister, can I hug you?
I didn't say anything, just reached out and wrapped my arms around his waist. Charlie hugged me tightly, resting his head on my shoulder. I felt the dampness on my neck and gently patted his head, comforting this tearful puppy.
It's okay, I'm fine.
Charlie held me for a long time before reluctantly letting go.
Sister, I'll pick you up from work from now on.
Seeing the seriousness in his eyes, I smoothed his tousled hair.
No need, I live very close to the office.
Hearing my refusal, he looked a bit sad. After a moment, he suddenly said,
Why don't you come work for me as my secretary?
No way! Distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Charlie listened to my words, his lips moved slightly but he said nothing. When we reached my apartment, he didn't unlock the car. We just sat there, and after a while, I heard him say cautiously,
I was really scared today.
Who could hurt me? Don't worry, I said, feeling a strange sense of pride seeing his handsome face filled with concern for me. How did you know I was there today, and that something happened?
Charlie hesitated for a few seconds before speaking in a very obedient tone.
Lily told me.
Afraid I might misunderstand, he quickly waved his hands.
I don't have her on WeChat. My mom gave me her number back then. She told me you were discussing business with Mr. Johnson.
His voice trailed off. I was a bit surprised. I didn't expect it to be Anna. I liked her when we first met, she didn't cling.
Did she say anything else?
She asked me to help her with a project in a few days. It's not a difficult project.
Will it affect you? I didn't want to owe anyone a favor, but this one was inevitable.
No, don't worry. It's a small matter.
I nodded without saying anything, took a mango candy from my bag, and handed it to Charlie. He stared at the candy, lost in thought, as if recalling something.
Are you allergic to mango?
No, I really like this candy.
I initially thought the boss and I would get scolded by the manager, but to my surprise, the three of us spent the entire afternoon berating that guy. By the end of the afternoon, our bond could only be described as unbreakable. The more we vented, the more exhilarated we became. So much so that I didn't notice Charlie's message until an hour later. As I left the office, I saw Charlie waiting for me at the entrance, dressed in a tracksuit. I jogged over, and Charlie took my bag, nodding at the boss behind me.
Cheerful, good job today.
The boss gave me a knowing look.
Proud, look, isn't he handsome?
My tone was filled with unmistakable pride.
Pitiful, I'm sorry, I lost track of time.
Relieved, no worries, it's a guy's duty to wait for a girl, especially for you, it wasn't long at all.
I looked at him with a complicated expression. Sitting in the car, I messaged Grace.
I think I'm falling for him.
That's his basic charm.
He's really good at it, every move hits my heart.
Tonight, at your place. I need to know how he's so good at this.
We casually entered a hot pot restaurant. The theme inside was all pink bubbles.
Cheerful, welcome. Couples who take a heart-shaped photo get a 20% discount.
I didn't expect to encounter the cliché mistaken couple scenario from novels. Sensing Charlie's gaze, I cleared my throat.
Hopeful, is there no discount for siblings?
Confused, sibling couples can also take photos.
Now it was my turn to look at Charlie. I understood his lips asking, "Can we, sister?"
Cheerful, a discount is a discount. Let's take the photo.
Feeling Charlie's joy made me happy too. Who wouldn't like an obedient puppy? The entire meal was filled with Charlie's smiles and his attentive serving. Seeing his domestic side, I could only sigh, younger brothers are the best. After leaving the hot pot restaurant, Charlie went to get the car. I stood by the roadside waiting for him. Suddenly, someone forcefully grabbed me from behind. I saw it was Michael and felt a wave of disgust.
Terrified, let me go.
I struggled to break free, but the strength difference between men and women was too great. I couldn't reach the pepper spray in my bag, and he dragged me towards a dark area. Charlie got out of the car and ran over to push Michael aside, shielding me behind him. I looked up at the back of this young man in front of me, feeling a sense of security I had never experienced before. I took out my phone and called the police.
It's okay, I'm here now. Don't be afraid.
He softly patted my back to soothe me. Since no substantial harm was caused, Michael was only given a warning. After leaving the police station, I sat in the car and told Charlie about my history with Michael.
His name is Michael. He was my former colleague. He used to harass me under the guise of being friendly, doing things that made me very uncomfortable. I had no choice but to resign. After I left, I exposed his behavior in the company group chat. I didn't expect to run into him tonight.
Any behavior that makes someone uncomfortable is harassment. You did the right thing.
He's just a scumbag, an idiot.
Don't be angry. It's not worth it.
Anger gives the devil a foothold.
My muttering made Charlie laugh.
Yes, anger gives the devil the foothold, and you're a beautiful little fairy.
He dropped me off at my building and watched me go inside. As I neared the door, I turned back to look at him, suddenly feeling the urge to hug him. And I did just that. He smiled, then raised his hand slightly and ran to meet me. When I got home and saw Grace in my room, I remembered she said she would come tonight.
It's normal to be controlled.
I instinctively retorted. I was the one in control, okay.
Oh, you were in control? Who was the one running over to hug him?
Grace!
Yes, I'm here.
I lay on my side, facing Grace. Tell me about your story with the young CEO, Ryan.
All right, I'll reluctantly share.
Grace rolled her eyes at me, but I ignored her and continued. That day, our department had a dinner party. I had a bit to drink. After the party, I was walking home and passed by a garbage dump. The smell almost made me throw up. That's when Charlie appeared. He handed me a bottle of water. I was cautious and didn't drink it.
It's wise to be cautious at night.
But when I looked up and saw how handsome he was, I took the water and drank it. And then, things just happened. Seeing I didn't want to elaborate, Grace didn't press further. Thinking back.
Maybe it was the alcohol, or maybe I was just attracted to him. I asked if he had a girlfriend. He said no, so I told him I wanted to be his girlfriend.
I only remember the streetlight casting a glow on the back of his head, so I couldn't see his expression clearly.
But from his voice, he sounded happy.
Just as I was about to fall asleep, Grace nudged me awake. You better have a good reason, or I might lose control.
So, you broke up with him just because of the relocation compensation? I can't understand it, you're not that kind of person.
Ah, I knew it. You think I'm upright?
No, it's because he's too handsome. You had no reason to break up.
Well, it happened so suddenly. The next day, I regretted it a bit. Without a foundation of feelings, it didn't feel like it would last. Relationships need a sense of security, and I didn't feel secure.
What about now? If he wants to be with you now, would you?
Yes. Grace gave me a knowing look. Don't look at me like that, please. He's really handsome. He's really great. In the following days, Charlie and I quickly grew closer. We entered a flirtatious phase. I have to admit, I really liked it.
Want to go to the amusement park tomorrow?
Sure.
I'll pick you up tomorrow.
The next day, when I went downstairs, I saw Charlie leaning against his car. I whistled at him. Hey, looking sharp today. Is it because you're going out with me?
Can't let you down.
As soon as we entered the amusement park, he bought me a cotton candy. Taking the cotton candy from his hand, my fingers intentionally brushed against his. Seeing his reddened ears, I smiled with satisfaction. Walking along the path, I moved closer to him because of the crowd. The next second, he grabbed my hand. I saw it was him and felt his nervousness, his hand stiff. I squeezed his hand back. His face turned red. Taking advantage of the crowd, I leaned in and whispered, "You're blushing." He didn't dare look at me, but his cheeks turned even redder. He spent the entire morning taking photos of me with his camera.
Shall we take a picture together?
Sure.
He found a passerby to take our photo.
3, 2, 1, cheese.
At the last second, I turned to look at him. And then, we made eye contact. He was looking at me too. I originally intended to use the photo to flirt with him. But instead, I blushed first. He ran over to get his phone, and I saw the passerby say something to him. He seemed very happy. He ran back to show me the photo.
It's beautiful. Remember to send it to me later.
Okay.
I watched as he set the photo as his wallpaper.
What did that girl just say to you?
He looked at me seriously, with a hint of anticipation.
She said we looked great together. What do you think, sis?
Then
added,
"Keep up the good work, little brother."
During lunch, he kept looking at me as if he wanted to say something. His gaze made me a bit uncomfortable.
If you have something to say, just say it.
Charlie cleared his throat, and his pleasant voice came from his direction.
We met when we were kids, right over there by the carousel.
I didn't believe him when he said it. This news would be quite the bombshell in our village.
At that time, I got separated from my parents and was crying alone in a corner. Then you came. You were like a vine in the abyss, pulling me out. You were so cheerful, always making me laugh, and you even gave me your treasured candy, the mango candy you gave me last time. I asked you who you were, and you said you were an angel sent to save me. I then asked if the angel could help me find my parents, and you said yes. Right after that, my parents appeared. At that moment, I really thought you were an angel.
My memory of this event was vague. I vaguely remembered that when I was 7, my cousin took me to the amusement park. He went to buy me ice cream and told me to wait in a corner, where I met a crying child. I comforted him because he looked so pitiful. Like the puppy next door. Later, I buried that memory, slowly forgetting it. Even now, I can't recall the exact details. I pondered for a moment and asked him.
So you recognized me the first time you saw me?
At that restaurant that night, I recognized you immediately. You looked so much like you did when you were a kid. I wanted to approach you, but I was too scared. Seeing you leave alone, I was worried about your safety, so I followed you.
Afraid I might misunderstand, he quickly explained.
I'm not a bad person. It's just that it's unsafe for a girl to be out alone at night. Seeing you unwell, I stepped in to help. I meant no disrespect.
I understand.
Seeing that I didn't overthink it, he continued.
When you said you wanted to be my girlfriend, I was so happy. So excited. Maybe I didn't handle it well, and then you broke up with me.
His expression grew increasingly forlorn.
When you messaged me, I knew you were looking for an excuse to break up. I wanted to stop you, but by the time I replied, it was already a red exclamation mark. So I accepted my dad's offer to take on the relocation project. I admit I had selfish motives. I wanted to get close to you again, to let you get to know me anew.
Seeing his nervous expression made me nervous too. Then I heard his voice.
So, can we?
I didn't answer him. The sound of the car engine brought me back to reality. I watched him driving seriously. Perhaps sensing my gaze, he hesitantly asked.
Is something wrong?
No, nothing.
Back home, I lay on my bed, recalling what Charlie said at noon. I silently gave myself a thumbs up.
That's me. Even at a young age, I knew how to have fun with handsome guys. I thought I'd be alone forever, but it turns out I was someone else's dream girl. What a stroke of luck!
I opened my messaging app.
Can you drive me to work tomorrow?
Sure.
Although I've ridden in his car several times, seeing him standing there this time felt different. A strange sense of nervousness arose.
Sophia, you're destined to be a strong woman. Don't be nervous.
Walking over, I saw his awkward demeanor, which made me feel balanced. I opened the door, got in, and the car engine hummed to life.
Do you have time tonight? Let's have dinner together.
Charlie glanced at me, seemingly understanding my thoughts, and cleared his throat.
Yes, I'll pick you up.
As soon as I entered the office, my boss gave me a knowing look and signaled me to follow her into the office.
Is that your boyfriend?
He will be tonight.
Make the most of it. This guy is impressive. Since last time, Mr. Johnson's several projects suddenly stopped collaborating with him, and his factory faced some issues and had to undergo immediate rectification.
Wow, that fast?
Yes, that fast. The world changes too quickly.
Maybe it was because of what the boss said in the morning, or maybe it was because of the evening meeting, but the day felt exceptionally slow. I watched the second hand on my watch tick, round after round. 5 minutes before the end of the workday, Charlie's message arrived.
I'm waiting downstairs. No rush.
Got it. The princess is coming to rescue the prince.
Okay, princess.
In those 5 minutes, I went to the bathroom twice, opened my messaging app 13 times, and checked another app 5 times. As the second hand passed 12, I shut down my computer, grabbed my bag, and headed downstairs. He stood there with a bouquet of icy blue roses, under the last rays of the setting sun and the newly lit streetlights.
Princess, I'm here to pick you up.
Prince, you're quite the charmer. I like it.
Can the princess be with the prince?
He took my bag, moved closer, and we walked side by side. I smiled, stopped, and looked at him.
Sure, I agree.
He froze, stunned, taking 3 seconds to process my words. Then, nervously licking his lips, he gently took my hand. I felt the dampness in his palm, unsure if it was his sweat or mine. Downstairs at my place.
I'll pick you up for work from now on.
You can pick me up whenever you're free.
I watched him nod, his eyes full of me.
All right, I'm going up now.
I tried to pull my hand away, but he didn't let go. I looked at him, puzzled, and gently squeezed his hand back. After washing up, I lay in bed, looking at the post Charlie made half an hour ago. My princess, with a picture he secretly took of me at the restaurant. I opened my social media and edited my post. The actress and her bodyguard, with a picture I secretly took of him driving. As soon as I posted it, Grace's message came through.
Did you win him over already?
Of course, it was a piece of cake for me.
Just after replying to Grace, Charlie's affectionate message arrived.
Sophia, I love you.
I knew you couldn't resist my charm.
Couldn't resist.
Charlie and I spent a few days in a blissful bubble. On the 3rd day of our relationship, he held me in his arms. By the 7th day, we shared our first kiss under the romantic fireworks he had arranged for me.
Baby, I have something to do tonight, so I might not be able to pick you up. I'm sorry.
Then you owe me 5 kisses when we meet.
All right, let me know when you get home.
Okay. After work, I hitched a ride with a colleague and got off at the intersection near my house. The weather had turned cold, and the sky was already dim. The streetlights cast shadows on the ground, making everything look eerie. I suddenly felt a chill, and the surroundings were deserted and quiet. Seeing an extra shadow on the ground, I quickened my pace and took out my phone to call my parents. My house was just ahead, and they could come quickly. Just then, my phone rang. It was Charlie. As soon as I answered, someone knocked the phone out of my hand and dragged me into a nearby alley. In the dim light, I vaguely recognized the figures. It was Mr. Johnson and Michael. I had no idea how they had teamed up, but judging by their demeanor, I knew I was in trouble tonight.
It's because of you that I had to make changes, that I went bankrupt. Look at me now, it's all your fault.
You're just a flirt seducing men. That guy must have been with you because you slept with him. Someone like you should be grateful for any attention.
I watched them warily, listening to their insults. When Michael tried to grab my clothes, I found a broken brick nearby and threw it at him. Taking advantage of the moment, I tried to run away but was pulled back by Mr. Johnson. I struggled to push him away. Michael, shaking his head, glared at me.
How dare you hit me?
He reached out to strike me, and Mr. Johnson pushed me against the wall. With their combined force, my head hit the wall, and I felt a warm liquid trickle down my face. My vision blurred, and I could barely move my arms to resist. In my despair, I saw a shadowy figure and heard Charlie's voice. He called my name, begging me not to fall asleep and apologizing with a tearful voice. When I woke up in the hospital, I saw Charlie, my parents, and Grace all looking at me with concern. I smiled at them, my voice hoarse from disuse. The princess is awake and wants some water. They froze for a second, then sprang into action, calling the doctor, fetching water, and wiping away tears. I smiled. This is the treatment a princess deserves. I stayed in the hospital for half a month.